Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to today's Deep Dive. We're really cracking open Brian Tracy's Get Smart today.
Yeah, your excerpts got me thinking we've got a lot to cover.
It really is like a cheat code for life.
It is, and he doesn't just tell us what to do, he shows us how to think.
Right. That's so much better than just giving us another to-do list.
Totally, and one thing that really resonated with me was his take on our mental potential.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, he drops this crazy fact. Our brains have more potential ideas than there are molecules in the universe.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It does, and it makes you realize just how much we're underutilizing.
Like we're walking around with these supercomputers in our heads, but we're only using a tiny fraction of their processing power.
It is. Tracy compares it to having $1 million bank account, but we're only ever spending $20 at a time.
Okay, I love that analogy. So how do we unlock the rest of that fortune? How do we tap into that untapped potential?
Well, he starts by talking about fast thinking versus slow thinking. It's based on Daniel Kahneman's work.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. It's the difference between those snap judgments and those decisions we really need to sleep on.
Right. And he says fast thinking is essential for everyday decisions. But when it comes to those big life choices,
Career, relationships, the stuff that really matters.
exactly, that's where we need to engage in slow thinking. But so often, we rush into those big decisions using our gut feeling.
Oh, tell me about it. I've made a few decisions I wish I could take back. So how do we apply the brakes and engage that slow, more deliberate thinking?
Well, Tracy talks about this top sales manager who had this 30-day rule for hiring. No matter how impressed he was with a candidate, he would always wait a full 30 days before making a decision.
Interesting. So it was like a cooling off period?
Yeah, it gave him time to really see past that initial charm and observe any potential red flags.
It's like taking the car for a test drive before you commit to buying it.
Exactly. You don't want to base your decisions solely on how shiny the paint job is.
Right. You want to see how it handles in real-world situations, and it makes you wonder how many bad decisions could be avoided if we just hit the pause button and really thought things through.
Absolutely. And this isn't just limited to hiring decisions. It applies to our relationships, our finances, any big decision where the stakes are high.
Basically, anytime we're tempted to rush in, we need to channel our inner sales manager and give it the 30-day test.
Exactly. And this ties into another important concept Tracy highlights, the importance of informed thinking.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does it mean to be an informed thinker?
It means not relying solely on our gut instincts or limited knowledge, especially in today's fast-paced world. He actually argues that the #1 reason businesses fail is a lack of customer demand.
Oh, wow. You'd think that'd be something people would prioritize.
Right. But he's saying they didn't do their research. They didn't bother to find out if there was even a market for their product or service.
It's like writing a book without doing any market research or trying to sell winter coats in the middle of summer. You might have a great product, but if there's no demand, you're out of luck.
Exactly. It's about gathering information before diving in headfirst.
It makes me think of that saying, measure twice, cut once.
Perfect analogy. And this applies to so many areas of life, choosing a career path, making a major investment, even deciding where to live. It's about doing our due diligence, asking the right questions, and seeking out expert advice when needed.
It's like planning a trip, right? You'd want to check the weather, research your destination, maybe even talk to people who've been there before.
Precisely. You don't just hop on a plane and hope for the best. And the same principle applies to our lives. The more informed we are, the better equipped we are to make decisions that align with our goals and lead to the outcomes we desire.
It's about stacking the odds in our favor. So we've talked about the importance of thinking slowly, thinking deliberately, and making sure we're well informed. But at a certain point, we have to take action, right?
Absolutely. Thinking is important, but it's the action we take that ultimately creates results.
And that's where Tracy's concept of goal-oriented thinking comes in, right?
You got it. And get this. He starts off by saying that only 3% of people have clear written goals.
Really? Only 3%? That's a tiny percentage.
I know it. And yet he says that those 3% achieve more than the other 97% combined.
Wow. That's a pretty compelling statistic. It really highlights the power of having that clarity, that sense of direction.
It does. And Tracy argues that when we have that clarity, we're naturally more motivated to take action.
Because we know what we're working towards. We have that target in mind.
Precisely. And it's not enough to just have a vague idea of what we want. Tracy stresses the importance of writing down our goals.
It's like that saying, a goal not written down is just a wish.
Exactly. He also suggests setting deadlines and breaking those goals down into smaller, more manageable steps.
It's about creating a roadmap for success, a step-by-step guide to get us from where we are to where we want to be.
And he even provides some thought-provoking exercises to help us identify what those goals should be. Like this one, what would you do if you only had 6 months left to live?
Wow. That's a powerful question. It really cuts through the noise, doesn't it?
It does. It forces you to confront what truly matters most.
Because suddenly all those trivial things we tend to get caught up in just fade away.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're left with what's truly important, our relationships, our passions, the legacy we want to leave behind. Another one that really resonated with me was the question, imagine your ideal life 5 years from now.
Oh, I like that one too. It's like painting a picture of our future self.
Exactly. What are you doing? Who are you with? How are you spending your days? It's a powerful visualization exercise that can really ignite our motivation.
And once we have that clear vision in mind, it's all about aligning our actions with those aspirations. But I think there's a danger there too. We can get so focused on taking action, on checking things off our to-do lists, that we forget about the bigger picture.
That's such an important point. And you know what? That leads perfectly into another key concept Tracy explores, the difference between activity and results. And that's something we'll unpack further in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, it's really easy to fall into that trap of being busy for the sake of being busy.
Oh, totally. I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to take a step back and ask myself, wait, am I actually making progress here? Or am I just spinning my wheels?
Exactly. And Tracy encourages us to shift our focus from activity to results. It's not about how much we do, it's about the impact of what we do.
It's about working smarter, not just harder.
Exactly. And he uses the 80-20 rule to illustrate this point.
Oh yeah, the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
That 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. So how do we identify that crucial 20% in our own lives? How do we figure out where to focus our energy for maximum impact?
Well, he suggests we start by identifying our peak performance times. You know, those periods during the day when we're most alert and focused.
Like some people are morning people, some are night owls. We all have those times when we're naturally more productive. Exactly. And he says we should dedicate those peak performance times to our most important tasks, the ones that are really going to move the needle.
And then minimize distractions as much as possible during those times.
Absolutely. He's talking about silencing our phones, closing those extra tabs on our computers, maybe even putting a do not disturb sign on our office door if we have to.
Whatever it takes to create that space for deep work. Because when we're constantly interrupted, it takes so much more time and energy to get back into that flow state.
It really does. And this ties into another key theme that runs throughout Get Smart, the importance of mindset.
Ah, mindset, that elusive ingredient that can make or break our success.
It really is. And Tracy dives into the common fears that often hold us back. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, you name it.
Oh, those fears are like those pesky little voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough, smart enough, or brave enough to go after what we really want.
Exactly. And they can be so paralyzing. So how do we silence those voices and cultivate a more empowering mindset?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's Tracy's take on that?
Well, one of the most powerful antidotes he offers is the concept of accepting 100% responsibility for our lives.
100% responsibility. That sounds intense.
It does, doesn't it? But it's not about blaming ourselves for everything that happens to us. It's more about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond to those events.
So it's about focusing on what we can control, even when things feel out of control.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a victim mentality to a creator mentality, which can be incredibly empowering. Because when we take ownership of our lives, we naturally become more solution-oriented.
It's like that saying, you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it.
I love that. And speaking of taking ownership, Tracy also talks about the importance of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, that's an interesting one. How does that tie into mindset?
Well, he argues that holding on to anger, resentment, or regret, especially towards ourselves, only keeps us stuck in the past.
It's like carrying around all that heavy baggage. It weighs us down and prevents us from moving forward freely.
Exactly. He emphasizes that forgiveness is not about condoning someone else's actions or letting them off the hook. It's about freeing ourselves from the burden of those negative emotions.
So it's really a gift we give to ourselves more than anyone else.
I love that perspective. And Tracy points out that self-forgiveness is just as important as forgiving others. Because sometimes we can be our own worst critics.
Oh, tell me about it. I can be so hard on myself, replaying past mistakes in my mind like a broken record.
It's so easy to get caught in that cycle of self-criticism, but it's not productive. So Tracy encourages us to extend the same compassion to ourselves that we would offer to a loved one who's made a mistake.
It's about learning from those experiences, growing from them, and then moving on. And you know what? This whole conversation about mindset and forgiveness reminds me of something Tracy shared about Einstein.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Well, apparently, one of Einstein's teaching assistants asked him why he was giving his students the same physics exam 2 years in a row. And you know what Einstein said?
What did he say?
He said, because the answers have changed.
Wow. That's such a powerful reminder that the world is constantly evolving and our thinking needs to evolve along with it.
It is, and it makes you realize how easy it is to get stuck in our ways, clinging to outdated beliefs or approaches that might have served us in the past but are no longer relevant.
It's like trying to navigate a new city using an old map. You might eventually find your way, but it's going to be a lot more challenging and frustrating than if you just updated your map.
Exactly. So how do we stay adaptable in a world that's constantly changing? How do we embrace change rather than resist it?
Well, Tracy offers a tool called zero-based thinking.
Zero-based thinking. I've never heard of that. What is it?
It's a concept borrowed from accounting, where you basically start from scratch, questioning every expense. But in a broader sense, it's about regularly evaluating our choices and asking ourselves, knowing what I know now, would I make the same decision again?
So it's like hitting the reset button on our thinking, challenging those ingrained habits and assumptions that might no longer be serving us.
Exactly. And it applies to all areas of our lives, from our careers and relationships to our finances and even our personal growth.
So we're talking about questioning everything, really putting our choices under the microscope.
In a way, yes. It's not about second-guessing ourselves at every turn, but rather about staying open to new information and being willing to course-correct when necessary.
It's about being adaptable and recognizing that what worked yesterday might not work today, and that's okay.
Precisely. And this ties into another important aspect of adaptability, embracing discomfort.
Discomfort. Nobody likes being uncomfortable.
True. But Tracy argues that our comfort zones, while cozy and familiar, can also be cages that prevent us from reaching our full potential.
So it's like that saying, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And he challenges us to view discomfort as an opportunity for growth, rather than something to be avoided.
It's about leaning into those challenges, knowing that's where the real growth happens.
Exactly. It's about pushing past those self-imposed limitations and discovering what we're truly capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the ways we can do that is by tapping into our creative potential.
Creativity. That magical ingredient that can lead to innovation, problem solving, and those aha moments that can change everything.
It really is. And Tracy believes everyone has the potential for creativity, even if we don't always see ourselves as creative types.
So it's not just about being artistic or musical.
Not at all. Creativity shows up in all areas of life, from the way we approach our work to the way we solve problems in our personal lives.
So how do we tap into that creative potential? Is it something we're born with, or can it be developed?
Tracy definitely believes it can be developed. And one of the tools he suggests is a systematic approach to problem solving.
A systematic approach. So it's not just about waiting for those random bursts of inspiration.
Not necessarily. While inspiration is great when it strikes, Tracy argues that we can actually cultivate creativity by approaching problems in a more structured way.
Okay, so tell me more about the systematic approach. How does it work?
Well, he starts by emphasizing the importance of clearly defining the problem at hand, and not just the symptoms of the problem, but the root cause.
It's like when you go to the doctor with a headache, and they don't just give you a painkiller. They ask you questions to try to figure out what's causing the headache in the first place. Is it stress, lack of sleep, something more serious?
Exactly. You need to get to the root of the issue. And once we've identified the root cause, Tracy says we need to shift our focus from problem-centric thinking to solution-focused thinking.
Okay, so it's about moving from a place of what's wrong to how can we fix this?
Precisely. And he introduces a tool called the GOSPA model to help with this process.
GOSPA? What is that?
It stands for goals, Objectives, strategies, plans, and actions. It's a framework for breaking down complex problems into more manageable steps.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. How does Jolas Bohr work in practice?
Sure. So first, you define your goal. What are you ultimately trying to achieve?
Right, the big picture outcome.
Exactly. Then you set specific objectives that will help you reach that goal. From there, you brainstorm strategies, develop a detailed plan, and then most importantly, take action.
So it's like creating a roadmap for solving the problem with clear milestones along the way.
Precisely. And Tracy emphasizes the importance of writing down each step of the process.
Because as we discussed earlier, a goal not written down is just a wish. But even with the best plan in place, even when we're laser focused on finding solutions, there's still one major obstacle that can sabotage our best efforts.
What's that?
Distractions. Those pesky little things that can derail our focus and productivity, especially in today's hyper-connected world.
Well, absolutely. And Tracy's not just talking about external distractions like social media or email notifications. He also talks about the internal distractions that could be just as disruptive.
Oh, you mean those pesky negative thoughts, those self-doubts that can pop up at the most inconvenient time?
Exactly. Those can be even harder to manage than external distractions.
Because they're coming from inside the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
So how do we quiet those internal distractions? How do we create that inner peace and focus that allows us to do our best work and live our best lives?
That is a great question, and one we are going to answer as we shift to the final part of our deep dive in just a moment.
It's true, those negative thoughts can really sabotage us from the inside out.
They really can. And in Get Smart, Tracy offers some practical tips for managing those internal distractions.
Oh, I'm all ears. What does he suggest?
Well, he talks about the importance of practicing mindfulness.
Mindfulness, that's about being present in the moment, right? Not letting our minds race ahead or dwell on the past.
Exactly. It's about observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment, which can be really helpful when those negative thoughts start creeping in.
Because instead of getting swept away by those thoughts, we can just observe them and let them pass.
Exactly. He also suggests challenging those negative thoughts when they arise.
So not just letting them run wild in our minds, but actually questioning their validity.
Exactly. Like, is there any real evidence to support this thought? Or is it just my inner critic trying to sabotage me?
It's like putting those negative thoughts on trial. And if they can't present a compelling case, we can dismiss them. I like it.
It's a powerful technique. And if challenging those thoughts head-on feels too difficult, Tracy suggests reframing them in a more positive or empowering light.
So it's like taking a negative thought and giving it a makeover, turning that frown upside down.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective, looking for the silver lining, or finding the lesson in the challenge.
Because as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Or at least it can, if we choose to see it that way.
Exactly. It's all about choice. And this ties into another key aspect of Get Smart: the importance of taking care of our physical well-being.
Oh, yes. We can't forget about the physical side of things. We can't expect our minds to function at their best if we're not taking care of our bodies.
Absolutely. Tracy emphasizes the importance of getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, and moving our bodies regularly.
It's like the saying goes, take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live.
It's true. And it's not just about looking good or feeling good physically. When we prioritize our physical health, it creates a ripple effect that positively impacts all areas of our lives, including our mental clarity, our energy levels, and even our relationships.
It's like they're all interconnected, right? Our physical health, our mental health, our emotional well-being, they all influence each other.
They do. And Tracy argues that neglecting one area can create a domino effect that negatively impacts the others.
So it's not just about working hard or thinking smart. It's also about taking care of the vessel that's carrying us through this journey called life.
Exactly. And speaking of journeys, Tracy talks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people on our journey to success.
Oh, yes. We've all heard the saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right. And Tracy really emphasizes the power of our social circle and the importance of building a strong network of support.
Because let's face it, we're not meant to go through life alone. We all need people who believe in us, who challenge us, and who support us along the way.
Absolutely. And he's not just talking about professional connections or mentors. He also highlights the importance of nurturing our personal relationships, our friendships, our families, those people who bring joy, laughter, and a sense of belonging into our lives.
Because at the end of the day, success is much sweeter when we have people to share it with.
Absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful message to end on.
It is. It's a great reminder that success is not just about what we achieve externally, it's also about the quality of our relationships and the impact we have on the world around us.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been such an inspiring and thought-provoking deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights on Brian Tracy's Get Smart.
It was my pleasure.
And for our listeners, if you're feeling inspired to level up your thinking, to unlock your full potential, and to create a life that truly lights you up, we highly recommend checking out Get Smart. It's packed with practical advice, timeless wisdom, and actionable steps you can start taking today to create the life of your dreams. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those actions aligned with your aspirations.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.